Yeah, I was watching Webster Tarpley the other day, and he was on Alex Jones, and he was trying to put out his 5-point plan. I actually heard his 5-point plan before, and it's a really good plan, actually. I guess the main points that he was trying to get across, which Alex Jones just totally missed and just ignored them, was that, well, he says that definitely these people need to go to jail. Or actually, his first step is there cannot be any austerity, which is absolutely true. You cannot cut the social programs. These social programs are there so nobody starves to death. I mean, it's very simple. People should have shelter. People should have food. People should have water. People should have energy. People should have education. There's absolutely no reason why anybody in this country, or even in the world, really, if you come down to it, doesn't deserve that as a human being to get those things. I mean, this is not basically, we don't have a society, we don't have a civilization unless those minimum necessities are available for every single person. I mean, it's that simple. So he's right about that. No austerity. And anyway, there's no benefit to it. Okay, the second point he was trying to make was that these bankers, or they need to federalize the banks, which also is true. Nationalize the banks. Doesn't need to be one world bank. It can be each country has its own bank. I think eventually, banks are. Well, here's the thing about Peter Joseph. Peter Joseph says that the banks eventually are going to be gone, which money, banks, all that is really obsolete if you think about it. But let's go along with Webster Tarpley. In a transition period, yes, you nationalize the banks. You don't charge interest, and you give people money. The money is really fake. It's phony. It's not even real. So in other words, rich people and the elites have convinced us to use money because they use money as a way to control everybody else. In other words, they will steal and rob and kill and do whatever so they can get enough of this money and assets. So then they have control over you, and then they make you believe that the money is so important when the money it's completely useless to the normal person. Basically, all it is doing is, if you need food, instead of having food, you need to have money to buy food, okay, in this market system, which is a complete flaw and a complete waste of whatever. But anyway, if you just had the food instead of the money, you'd be fine. So the money doesn't need to exist. But anyway, as long as it's only for trading what you need, in other words, you open a business, okay, and you're going to create a product, okay, you need capital, you need the money to buy the machines in the factory and we pay the workers and all that other stuff. So in other words, the money does help that, because you don't have, like, until you create your factory and until you create your product and until you start selling your product, you're not going to have any money coming in. So in other words, you need something to get the thing going. But if it's a national bank and it looks at people, which the old banks used to do, they look at you, you come in with a business plan, they look at the business plan, they say, this looks like a real business plan, or not a real business plan. If it looks like a real business plan, you can make some money, they give you a loan. And obviously you have to pay it back, but then they tack on some interest. But if the government is doing it, they don't need to tack on interest. Or maybe 1%, let's say. 1% as kind of like a tax, that the government can use the 1% to do their business, basically, what they have to do outside of the money. So anyway, you don't need to go to a banker. You don't need to get ripped off. You don't need to beg some rich guy, oh, please give me some money, please invest, and all this other stuff. I mean, the whole stock market, the whole thing, the whole system is completely corrupt and completely stupid. So Webster Tarpley and other people like him have an idea that, okay, well, let's nationalize the bank, which is a good transition movement. Peter Joseph is one step further, and what I believe is the next step is we eliminate the banks and we don't have any more money, and we just produce what we need and distribute it. But okay, we'll stay with Webster Tarpley for now. So Webster Tarpley, that's his other plan. Now, then his other next step is definitely a good one. You have to make laws that are very, very strict. I mean, actually, he says CDOs and stock options and all that. I mean, not stock options, but the derivatives and all that stuff need to be wiped out. Well, I think the whole stock market can go. The whole stock market really has no purpose whatsoever. I mean, it's for rich people to buy stuff to make money for nothing, basically what it is. In the old days, they said, how can we make more money while we're still sitting at home at the pool? Oh, let's invest in companies, and when they make money, they got to pay us a percentage. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's just completely ridiculous. It's a useless thing. The companies don't need to exist. And, by the way, if you have the government, federal bank, central bank, who gives like 0% or 1% interest to any real productive business that's actually producing something that helps society, then you don't need a stock market, because you just go to the central bank and get more money. Every time you need money, you just get more money. I mean, the thing is, it cracks me up. It's the whole thing about money and accumulating money. It's fake. Money should just be used to produce more stuff. You see what I'm saying? So you produce more stuff, and then people pay the money to buy the stuff, and then you reuse the money to produce more stuff. But nobody should sit there and accumulate the money. That's the biggest problem. That's why I'm getting off a tangent of Webster Tarpley's stuff, but all right, now let me stay on Webster Tarpley. So those are his steps right there, and he's right. And then he says the bankers need to go to jail because it's obvious fraud. Even like forever, the stuff that has gone on in the stock market and all of these banks and whatever has been fraud. There's no doubt about it. It's been fraud up and down. So they should have always been locked up for fraud, at a minimum. So we don't really need new laws and all that other stuff. I mean, we do need to. There have been some things that have been watered down a lot, but the bottom line is it's always been fraud, and fraud has always been illegal. So lock these guys up under fraud statutes, and maybe pass a law to make the penalties more strict. In other words, actually there is a penalty for fraud that is supposed to be 3 times. Like if you made $1 million by fraud, you're supposed to pay $3 million. So in other words, that's why you definitely don't do it, because you have to pay a lot more than what you made. So these guys have to pay billions. Since they can't pay billions because they've lost all the money anyway, they should go to jail. They should be locked up. And some of them, if you can. And I think there's a direct correlation to how they've destroyed people's pensions and other things. There are people dying today because of what these guys did. I mean, literally people are dead just because of what these guys did. So I would say if you can prove that it should be just they killed one person, they should go to jail. But I would say, let's say we got a pretty good idea that they're responsible for hundreds of deaths. Okay, I know if one person kills one person, I'm not really big on the death penalty, but if it's a high probability that one person caused the death of hundreds or thousands or even millions of people, they deserve death. I mean, so whatever. I'm getting way off topic because these people, even if they're not held accountable, if the system changes, that's fine, because they have no skills in the real world. They have no productive skill whatsoever. All they do is manipulate, and they're criminals. So you got to keep them from continuing being criminals to everybody else. So you do have to lock them up, or you could just leave them, take all their money away. So in other words, all the assets that they have, every one of them should be zero. They shouldn't have a penny. They should not have a nice house. Put them in a slum house. If they're not going to jail, they have to lose all their assets. I mean, that's just the minimum. Anyway, I'm off too much on a tangent. I will say that Webster Tarpley's plan is really good. It's really excellent. I'm glad about one thing, that he says that actually these other guys are, he does it himself. Alex Jones is complete talk. And even Peter Joseph. One thing that they keep talking about is, oh, we're informing people, we're educating people, yada, yada, yada. Okay. The one point that Webster Tarpley has, which is excellent, is that, okay, education is good. We've done that. We've been there, done that. We've been doing that for years and years and years. We're educating. Now it's time for action. We have to take back the country. I mean, there's just no other way. People in the streets, the Occupy Wall Street, they were kind of a waste. They really had no goals. But the one thing that they did that these other guys here don't do, they were in the street. They were out there. Okay, so there's a lot smarter things that we can do. I mean, Webster Tarpley's talking about a third-party type deal and maybe another way to go through the government and, governmental parties, and I don't really buy that. That's kind of bullshit too. But we do need to make actions. Some way, somehow, people have to make these changes that Webster Tarpley talks about. And I don't think it's really by getting a politician in office. Okay, the politicians are way too corrupt. One or two guys, or even 50 guys. I mean, look, even the what they call the Tea Party, which is not really the Tea Party. I mean, originally it was Ron Paul's Tea Party, and Ron Paul, he's pretty good. Webster Tarpley's right though. He's a nut. If you look at his so-called budget, it does take away food stamps, which is just insane. So even he's not right. But you know what? The funny part is, all these guys that are so-called Tea Party guys, they go along with that of cutting everything to the bone, and not doing one thing to the rich and making corporations and the rich people just have whatever they want. So they're both all about that, and it's just insane. But Webster Tarpley is right about that, and I will have another video talking about this.